If you like dipping your toes in matters of business and finance, then The Wolf of Wall Street is a movie that you definitely need to watch. If you are knee-deep in the world of business and finance, then I bet you know very well what I am talking about. Either way, we are going to deep dive into the world of Jordan Belfort, the wolf who claims influence over making Wall Street a breeding ground of greed. Hi, welcome to the Wealth Monopoly. Today's video is all about a man who has pleaded guilty to several crimes involving stock market manipulation and the running of a long-term scam involving penny stocks. I'd like to emphasize that this episode is not a how-to. It's a don't do of the things you have to keep in mind in your journey towards wealth. Another disclaimer before we dive deep. The Wolf of Wall Street is actually a memoir written by Jordan Belfort himself. The movie with the same title closely follows it. Given that the man behind all this is a convicted con artist, it would be wise to question everything he has written about himself and the things that he has done. However, a lot of it has been proven by the FBI and in court. Regardless, it is true that he has committed a fair share of wrongs, which is what we're going to talk about. Buckle up, this is gonna be a wild ride. It's time to understand how Mr. Belfort made $1 million a week through the illegal operations done at Stratton Oakmont, an over-the-counter brokerage house. Jordan Belfort got a head start at L.F. Rothschild, an investment banking firm. He folded when the stock market crashed in 1987. Today, all you have to do is type in a ticker symbol on Google to find out the price and decide your next move. Back then, it was not that simple. It was either the paper or your stockbroker that informed you of what was up in the market. The latter would give advice on what stocks to buy and sell. Mark Hanna, who was Belfort's real-life mentor of sorts, said that nobody, not even stockbrokers, know exactly how stocks move, whether it's going up, down, sideways, or whatever movement it could possibly make. So how and why did they pull this off then? Commissions! The commissions were more hefty back then compared to now. Usually, trades cost as much as 2% of the asset's total value. Normally, the firm and the stockbroker would get 1% each. Later on, Belfort worked at an investor's center. In reality, he worked for a bunch of different companies like this one. The movie's portrayal pretty much shows how these operations went down, which is referred to as over-the-counter brokerages. As mentioned earlier, Stratton Oakmont is exactly that type of brokerage house. Trades on public exchanges were facilitated there. Stockbrokers would relay trades from their clients, then a team on the NYSE floor would be calling out these trades. With a hefty commission as motivation, stockbrokers worked extra hard to encourage their clients to make as many trades as possible. This was unethical behavior. However, there was a form of control as well, so that things don't get too out of hand. A stockbroker or a stockbroking company could be kicked out of the trading floor if their behavior could potentially damage the exchange reputation. They had to be careful about this. No trade meant no business. Exchanges also made sure that the companies listed were legitimate. They made sure that the companies were financially stable and the management qualified. Over-the-counter firms operate differently. The exchange was completely out of the equation. Because of that, regulation was lax and supervision wasn't as strict. Companies approached these firms to get funding for their ideas and projects. In return for the money, the firms will keep 50% of the money that was raised. Okay, the 50% is actually just Hollywood exaggeration. Realistically, those transactions likely earned 10 to 20% for the over-the-counter brokers. Any firm that offers that cut is unjustified. As a result, and as Belfort and his men did, these unsophisticated investors were met with high-pressure sales tactics. I hope you're taking down notes because there's more to this list of don't do's. Before we continue, please give this video a thumbs up. Feel free to leave your thoughts, ideas, and suggestions in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you. Stratton Oakmont, a subsidiary of Stratton Securities, was a small-time dealer that worked on both over-the-counter and exchange-listed companies. Together with his fraud partner in crime, Danny Parish, portrayed as Danny Azoff, Belfort bought out the parent firm. Belfort was living the high life, but he wanted to go higher. Belfort contacted his so-called rat holes, independent connections that he trusted. They would purchase a substantial amount of stock from a tiny cap firm which had a value that didn't go over $100 million. After that, a hired group of brokers would assertively market whatever stock Belfort asked them to. After the rat holes had amassed a large enough stake in the firm, the brokers on Belfort's sales floor were ordered to sell stock to anybody who would buy it. "Make sure you buy before the market opens tomorrow," they urged. "You can't afford to miss out on this opportunity. It's only going to go up from here." There will be a bidding war for the stock once it begins trading, which will drive up the prices and have the pleasant side effect of making it easier for new investors to purchase. "This company has more than doubled in value this week. Get in now or you lose out." After the price of the stock had risen to a certain point, Belfort would order his rat holes to sell. While this was happening, his firm made it impossible for its typical clients to dispose of their shares by ignoring phone calls from investors wanting to sell their stock or just purposely lose trade orders. The rats would then have time to vacate their posts, and once regular investors were able to sell their own shares, the price would plummet. The money the rats made would be given to Belfort while they kept a little portion for themselves. When Stratton Oakmont began issuing companies, this strategy soared to greater heights. An initial public offering is the process by which a firm becomes available to the general public for the first time. There are several regulations and restrictions connected with this procedure, but the business's advantage at the end of the day is that it becomes considerably easier to access capital from public markets. Even if the company's shares were to be sold in a non-IPO market, there are still fees and costs associated with it. Because they want to rid themselves of some of the risk, businesses will hire an underwriting firm to walk them through the procedure and take on some of the danger. The underwriting firm will then be responsible for ensuring that the IPO succeeds. All of the shares that the business wants to sell at, or above the agreed-upon price are considered successful. It's possible that companies will go to investment banks to underwrite their deals, but Stratton Oakmont managed to persuade a few firms to use their services instead in its heyday. You might believe that the reintroduction of public exchanges into the mix would have slowed down Belfort's plotting, but you are terribly mistaken. But Belfort didn't let that stop him. Rather, he devised a strategy to take advantage of both systems. He instructed his rat holes to purchase shares in a firm about to go public. He would then sell the IPO stock to all of his contacts, which would drive up the price. This time, because it was listed on a public market, it would attract the attention of other investors who aren't familiar with Stratton Oakmont. People would hear that some IPO was up 50% at the opening and desire to participate. The rat holes may now utilize this buying frenzy to sell their stocks surreptitiously, earning a large profit. To create the ultimate money-making scam, Belfort mixed the unchecked environment of over-the-counter operations with investors' trust in publicly listed stock. Belfort earned millions through a pump and dump scheme. For a while, it appeared like these scams were on their way out. Online stock trading platforms and easy access to market data meant that investors were no longer susceptible to brokers who would hype up a tiny cap firm. Pump and dump schemes, unfortunately, are making a comeback in this environment. Instead of pumped up stockbrokers, there are Discord communities and gaming influencers, while penny stocks have been traded for dump trucking meme coins instead of cocaine. Jordan Belfort is the perfect example of what you shouldn't be when you're on the journey of wealth. It's okay to be ambitious, but going through illegal and unethical means to reach your goals is not the way to go. There are several temptations that offer easier paths to wealth, but as tempting as they are, the consequences are just as dire. Remember, the higher you go, the higher the fall is as well. We are here to teach you how to make money without being a con while you're at it. As always, we are with you on this journey of wealth. Please subscribe to our channel and ring your notification bell so that we could continue to be on this journey with you. See you in the next video.